this is something to think about, you know. I think the chaos that existed 10 years ago in the security community was good overall for the security of the community. Because we understood, we had internal strife, let alone external strife, so we were always trying to push the bar forward. We don't really see that anymore. And I think you lose a sense of camaraderie and you lose a sense of aggression that you get when you have that. And I think it's important to have that kind of aggression. When you're talking about trying to make things more secure, you can't sit on your thumbs. Speaking of sitting on your thumbs, yesterday was a big day in my life. Not just because it was the first day at Nauticon 4, but I had a box that was deployed in Anchorage, Alaska in 2000. FreeBSD 40000315 something or other current. Okay, so anyone that knows anything about FreeBSD, that's a little sketchy to have on the internet these days. This was the primary shmoo mail, web, and DNS server for a goodly long time, and until last night was our primary DNS server. Everything else had been migrated off of it. A single thing had been recompiled or patched on that box in 4.5 years. Okay? The only thing that saved it is every binary in the box was custom compiled when FreeBSD current went from A.out to ELF binaries. Okay? That's a little scary in and of itself. That box was ownable. Totally 100% ownable. And I would tell people, I got in front of Black Hat and DEF CON, said, there's the box, go own it. Nobody owned it. Not to my knowledge. It's entirely possible to like go through it, we'll find something. But it scares me because I had a sense of complacency about a box and I even joked about it. Like, ha ha ha, you can go own this box. In all reality, somebody should have taught me a lesson and popped it, and I would have thanked him for it. And now you can't say you're going to because it's gone, so. Okay, so no, we're back into the sequence of the non-super secret Nauticon secrets and just back into the regular ones. So those three were the ones I threw in last night. Again, if you have comments, I'm going to run probably right up into the end of this thing. So if you have comments and you want to like throw stuff at me or whatever, better do it now. Thanks. Yeah, there's a shmoo ball. We brought at least a couple. For those that don't know, at ShmooCon, one thing we do is we arm people with these little squishy balls. The first year they were really too squishy and you couldn't throw them. The second year they were ping pong balls and you couldn't throw them. And the third year they were much more weaponized. They hurt. Somebody had made a gasoline-powered shmoo ball launcher and it shot balls from about me to you, sir. While meanwhile, people in the back of the room could throw them hard enough to leave like red marks in your forehead. Anyway, the idea is, as a person in the audience, if you disagree with what someone's saying, but you don't necessarily want to interrupt them or you don't feel strong enough to say, I know exactly what I'm disagreeing with, but I think it might be bullshit, you just throw the thing at them. And that's up to the speaker to figure out, would I say some bullshit? You know, what's the deal? But I encourage you, even if you're at some place where it's not politically correct to throw things at the speaker, think, I'm going to bum rush him afterwards and scare the wits out of him. That'll put some responsibility back in the community post-haste. Security products are becoming obsolete. Like I said, firewalls and IDS is very much geared around a different threat model. At a recent CIO conference, there was a bunch of CIOs from big, like Fortune 50 companies on a panel, and they said, hey, if your firewall and IDS logs went away and you didn't log them anymore, would you actually notice anything? And they all just giggled. Literally giggled like little girls. They're like, no, absolutely. It turns out we don't look at them. Like, we keep them for compliance. If people actually ask, we can say, yep, we sure do log stuff. You know, there's a big checkbox somewhere, and it says audit. And then, there we go, I got it. Do they use it for anything? Is it important to their business? Absolutely not. Host-based security, kind of the wave of the future. It's wave of the past for some of us. But we really need to care about what happens at the hosts, okay? Trying to resurrect what's going on at the network doesn't make any sense, right? If I got transactions flying all over my network and I'm trying to decide what's an attack and what's not, I have to try to resurrect all the business logic that would normally be in play and try to say, is that really, might be an attack. I'll just put an alert in the IDS and someone will look at it. Right, and that just disappears again with the audit log of death. The problem manifests itself at the host. So we need to understand the host better than we do today. We don't really have the greatest tools yet to understand that. I used to work at this transaction processing company where we tried to do credit card processing on the internet. I said try because we never actually had a customer. We believed in SET, Secure Electronic Transaction. It's dead, by the way. It died a horrible, horrible death, and we burned VC money with it. But one thing that we did was we ran Sun BSM engines, Sun's basic security module, which is effectively syscall level auditing. You could audit any and all syscalls in the box. For instance, if you wanted to audit every fopen, you could. Neat. We wrote a little statistical analysis engine. The first thing we did, and this will get Al all kinds of excited, is we wrote a neural network to do the analysis. Yay, AI. And it turns out that it didn't work at all. It sucked. So we wrote a statistical analysis engine, and it worked fantastically. And we'll see all kinds of neat things about who was trying to attack us and that kind of thing. But we really only looked at 1 or 2 dimensions of data and didn't try to correlate it. Okay? We didn't spend a lot of money on a huge farm trying to do all this data correlation. You see all these products in the market, we're like, you give me all your data, and our little gnomes will think about it very hard, and we will find the intrusions. No, they don't work. They're very expensive. They're difficult to deploy. I don't mean to say they don't work, but they're difficult to make work. I'm really not trying to make a pitch against or for particular vendors. I'm trying to be as honest as I can. But those systems are very difficult to deploy. You're better off just picking a couple of dimensions, analyzing the hell out of it, and figuring out, hey, is this a bad thing or a good thing? And to make an AI point, again, Al, actually, I'll do it in the next slide, so hold that giggle. SOA. Service-oriented architecture. Does anyone here do SOA, coding, programming, know much about SOA? So SOA is this idea to have all these web services that kind of magically speak to each other across some global enterprise, and they assemble themselves into this big amorphous blob of just getting shit done on your behalf. Okay? It is. Yeah. Yeah, well, there are people that will want to shoot me for that should they see the video. SOA is like the wave of the future, man. Like if you go read Computer World and all these things, it's all about SOA. Everyone's migrating. It turns out it takes a lot of effort to migrate it. And the idea here is you could take something like your legacy COBOL application and wrap a big web services wrapper around it and then allow things all over your enterprise to talk to your COBOL and RACF servers and all this stuff through this SSL tunnel, basically, that you've created. Oh, that gets me hot from an attack perspective. It's complicated. It's incredibly complicated. Like you have all these things talking to each other, and you don't necessarily know what's going on. We can't build those things correctly, okay? We can't write tactical code line by line in a secure fashion so that we know we don't have race conditions, so that we know we don't have buffer overflows. How the hell are we supposed to know that I have some composability problem where someone can get a whole bunch of information and bypass my access control mechanisms by asking all the right questions to the right agents? Right? How do I know I haven't introduced other flaws, big high-level flaws I don't understand yet because I can't model, I can't simulate this environment? It's psychotic, okay? And we've got vendors out there who are saying, you know what, we'll do XML firewall, okay? Oh, got the word firewall there. So now we've got a more advanced software engineering problem, so we'll put a more advanced network thing in the middle and hope it all works out, okay? Not going to work out too well because, again, it's a second order kind of thing where I have to reconstruct everything that's going on and then make a decision, is this thing okay? Is this big binary blob here okay? Or is it just really an image or is it an attacker? I don't know. So I'm not a big fan of that. If for no, there's also this subtle problem that everything's encrypted. You know, everything runs over 443. So putting something in the middle will go, yeah, I can't read it. it's Sorry, I can't factor big prime numbers in my head that fast. Give me a second. Okay, 6. Not a big prime number, by the way. Okay, so trusted hardware. Zing. Having trusted hardware changes the face of security as we know it. This is not a shock. Okay, what I'm saying here is not a surprise. There are papers dating back to the 60s. There's a really important piece of work. A guy, Butler Lampson, wrote a bunch of papers in the 70s, early 70s. One of them is called Protection. And Protection lays the groundwork for, hey, if I have a little trusted module on a motherboard that I can query all the time and ask questions of, and it holds my cryptographic material, it does my cryptographic operations, and it kind of makes an attestation about the integrity of the system. And if I can segregate all the objects in the operating system, I can build a really uber cool secure system without necessarily paying a lot of attention to the quality of the code. Neat. MLS and trusted computing, okay, multi-level security and trusted computing. He put the groundwork down for this in the 70s. It's the holy grail of computer security. How many people know what MLS is? A handful, okay? If you care about computer security and you want to not repeat the failures of the past, go read about MLS. find along the side of the road lots of dead bodies that have tried to solve this problem. My analog to this is it's a lot like artificial intelligence. First of all, I'm going to get to it. I'm almost there. What can we do if we have this thing? Well, the first thing I can do is I can have a BIOS that'll ask this trusted module, hey, am I really the BIOS you intended to boot? The trusted module will say, sure, look okay to me. I verified your cryptographic signature. Everything looks all right. We've checked each other out. Go for it. BIOS comes online, says, I'm going to check this kernel out. Picks up the kernel, looks at it, says, I can verify your signature. This is the kernel I intended to boot. Kernel gets online, says, I'm going to bring some drivers online. These are all the drivers I intended to boot, except that one. I can't verify its signature. I'm not going to load it. Same thing with the application. So now I'm booted, and I'm running an operating system that has only the kernel, drivers, and applications that I intended to start, and nothing more. Wow, okay, so it doesn't mean it's secure, but it does mean it's what I intended to run, okay? It's really hard for botnets to live persistently across reboots if they can't restart themselves. That's the nature of an executable. It has to execute itself, okay? And if you can't execute it, cool. We've succeeded in something. Neato. Microsoft had this problem a few years ago when they started talking about, hey, we're going to have signed drivers and all this kind of nonsense. And everyone said, well, signed doesn't mean secure. No, but it at least means it's what I meant to do. Okay? Big, big, big forward. Now that we can get into runtime verification and then actually verify in real time, I'm continuing to do what I anticipate I'm supposed to be doing. Now we're talking about real security stuff. Okay, so why is this now the time for trusted computing? Okay, just like why was 1996 the big turning point for artificial intelligence? Al's already giggling. It's artificial intelligence. The way that we were going to solve AI was symbolic computing. Woohoo! We were going to code symbolically. We're going to build big, weird, random processors and VAXs and things. God bless the VAX. But we're going to build these systems that think like humans because humans think symbolically. And we just put them together in the right way so they think symbolically in the way that we think symbolically. They will rise and become our overlords. And we will all be slaves to the new, whatever. Anyway. So again, some people applaud. Thank God, we need new overlords. There's an election coming up, and if the robots took over, we'd be better off. Best joke of the night so far is a political one. Outstanding. Tough crowd, yeah. It turns out that didn't work, okay? We couldn't solve AI through symbolic computing. What do we solve it through, Al? Nothing. Oh, come on. Imitation. Raw frickin' horsepower. Okay? That's what happened. When Deep Blue or whatever the hell it was beat Kasparov, what had IBM been doing for the years up until? So IBM had this thing where they were trying to beat this grand chess champion. And they kept building these new machines every year that would try to beat them. Were they writing new languages? Were they making it think more like humans? No, they were putting more processors with more memory into the thing and making it think farther ahead until it imitated the humans but didn't think a damn thing like we did. Hey, but you know what? It beat the Grandmaster, right? So, yeah, mumble, bitch. Okay, so. But here's the deal. That was a success story for the artificial intelligence people. And really what it was them changing the rules of the game, okay? We're saying, what we really meant was Moore's Law. I'm sorry, that was the coolest thing ever, not symbolic computing. So, trusted computing was the same kind of thing, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to put these big, massive crypto chips, and we're going to solve these problems, we're going to have trusted processors and all this hoo-ha. Well, okay, so let's do a little history lesson. And this is a bit of revisionist history, according to me, because I'm a big Mac zealot. See the big apple there? According to a recent survey, iPods are cooler than beer, right? I think a lot of us have heard this at some college. Anyone actually go to this school? I'm not sure it existed, but iPods were cooler than beer, which... a lot of underage kids there. Well, what made the iPod work? Well, it was sexy and white, and it was kind of fun. But iTunes Music Store, right? This had a lot to do with it, because now, for $1, I could go buy any song I wanted, basically, right? I could go buy In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida for $1 and not buy any of the other songs that were on side B of that Iron Butterfly album, right? Everybody knows In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. The other side, Are You Happy, for the record, is one song off of the B-side of In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. iron butterfly.